Okay, for those of you that are keeping up with us on Facebook and YouTube, we're going to be in chapter 8 tonight. We're going to, if you'll note, we're opening the 7th seal. The 7th seal. We finished the 6th seal back in chapter 6, and then we spent actually 2 study sessions on chapter 7, looking at the sealing of the 144,000, and we noted their ministry in carrying the gospel of the kingdom all over the world. He emphasizes that their ministry is to carry the gospel. And then we noted also in chapter 7, starting with verse 9, that a great multitude of people will be saved as a result of the ministry of the 144,000. Now we had a pause. There was a pause. The action stopped so far as the opening of the seals in chapter 6. And I also need to remind you that with the opening of the 6th seal, and in chapter 6, verse 17, the great day of his wrath. So the last 3.5 years is called the wrath of God. The last 3.5 years called the great tribulation, when the wrath of God will be poured out upon the earth. So that's just a little background information as we think about opening the 7th seal. Now remember, the scroll that the Lamb took from the hand of the one that sat on the throne contains 7 seals. And like I say, we've already opened 6 of them, and tonight we're going to open the 7th seal. So that will reveal the content of the scroll. Once all the seals have been opened, then the content of the scroll will be made available in the 7 trumpets and the 7 vials of wrath. So some of you may have wondered, well, what's on the inside of the scroll? Well, we're about to find out as we open the 7th seal. Now, if you'll notice in chapter 8, verse 1, when he had opened the 7th seal, there's a silence in heaven. A silence in heaven, not on earth, but in heaven. And for about the space of a half an hour. Suppose all of a sudden I just paused in the midst of one of my sermons and then resumed about 10 minutes later. What would you think? Go to sleep. But anyway, so that he opens the seal, and then there's a pause for about 30 minutes, half an hour, in heaven. And you say, well, why the pause? Well, it's probably has to do with the severity of the judgments that are about to be pronounced upon the earth and the inhabitants of the earth. What we have seen under the opening of the 5 seals and 6 seals especially, really those judgments are mild in comparison to the judgments under the trumpets. And as we go further into the vials of wrath, you'll see they get more serious as we proceed with these particular judgments. So there's a pause. And John said, and this is first-hand information, he said, I saw. John received this revelation from the Lord during his confinement to Patmos. He said, I saw 7 angels which stood before God. That's in heaven. That's around the throne. Make a note of this, and when if you get an opportunity, how many of you have a copy of the Apocrypha, the books between the Testaments? You got one? Look at the book Tobit, Tobit, T-O-B-I-T, Tobit. Chapter 12, verse 15. It reveals that the Jews, this is basically Jewish history. It's called, this history of the interbiblical period is what it is, the interbiblical period. It's in the Catholic Bible, but not in our Bible, King James Bible, because it did not meet the requirements of the canon. That's a standard of measurement, of evaluation of what's inspired and what's not. They had, back in 1611, King James assembled a group of Hebrew and Greek scholars, and they set up a canon, a standard of measurements to evaluate which books are to be included in the Old Testament and the New Testament. So these books did not qualify, but they're really great Jewish history covering that period between the Testaments. It's T-O-B-I-T, and in chapter 12, verse 15 of that book, the Jewish tradition and Jewish history teaches that there are 7 angels. And he notes that here in verse 2. I saw 7 angels around the throne. And to them were given 7 trumpets. Now, make a note about the trumpets. Trumpets are used for several reasons. One is to summon people to battle, summon a nation to battle. And then another reason why a trumpet would be used is to call a solemn assembly, call a congregation of people together for a time of meditation and prayer, a solemn assembly. And I think it would probably do the Christian community good to call a solemn assembly and to focus on the needs of our nation. A time when Christians are challenged, believers are challenged to really get serious with God, because these are desperate times for our country. So 7 angels around the throne, and they are given 7 trumpets. But before they sound these trumpets, there's another angel that appears. He's standing before the altar. That's the altar of incense. Now remember, in the tabernacle was divided into, it's 75 feet wide, the outer wall, and 150 feet long. But in the tabernacle itself, which is a portable building that they use for worship primarily in the wilderness, it's divided into 2 sections. You've got the Holy of Holies, and then the Holy Place. And then on the outside of that, you've got the brazen altar. Right out in front of the Holy Place, you have the brazen altar. We're going to be talking about the gold He said, I saw another angel that came and stood at the altar. So, and he's talking about the golden altar in the holy place. And he has a censer. That censer is kind of like a pan with a handle on it. They would go out to the brazen altar and get coals off of the brazen altar and bring it inside and put it on the golden altar. And then they would take incense and that was ground into granules and sprinkle it on the fire. And we really don't know the actual formula for the incense, but we can speculate about what it involved. It's probably various plants that gave off a good odor, especially when they were burned. Probably frankincense was one of them that was used, and they would fix this mixture, and then the fire would come from the brazen altar outside. They would put it on the golden altar, and then sprinkle this incense on the coals, and the heat would cause it to give off a beautiful, a sweet smell. And the incense, the odor that it gave, is a type of the prayers of the saints. Turn to 5:8, back over to 5:8, and you'll notice about the 24 elders. Chapter 5 and verse 8, he says that, and when he had taken the book, the four beasts and the 4 and 20 elders, that's 12 out of the old dispensation, 12 out of the new representing the redeemed, the elders. And they have, every one of them, harps and golden vials, containers full of odors, which are the what? The prayers of the saints. So incense, as it goes up, is indicative of the prayers of the saints, and that it goes up and becomes a sweet odor in the nostrils of the Lord. And that's also a type of intercession. When you pray prayers and they go up and are received in good favor by the Lord. So there's a lot to understand about this altar of incense. It's a golden altar, which was before the throne in heaven. The tabernacle on earth was made after the example in heaven. So Moses was given specifics about the construction of the tabernacle, and the temple also had specific instructions. So this angel, some have speculated that this might be a manifestation of the Lord Jesus. But when you get to looking at it, and I looked at it in detail, he says another angel. Really what he's saying, Linda, read what yours has to say there in verse 3.
Another angel who had a golden censer came and stood at the altar.
Make a note somewhere from another angel saying of the same kind, of the same order as the other angels. So it's not an uncreated angel. This is a created angel after the order, after its kind. So, but it's different from the seven. This angel has a different ministry than the seven. So the seven are being held in preserved until this angel accomplishes his mission. So he has a golden censer, which is a pan. How many of you have a pan that you cook eggs and bacon and all in? Got a handle on it. And, I think that's probably similar. One that can be exposed to the fire. They would dip into the coals and take them into the garden. Well, yeah, it could be a frying pan, I guess, Miss Gill. But anyway, that's the altar of incense, and it reveals the prayers of the saints. Now look at verse 4. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers. Now remember, go back over to chapter 6. You remember that group that was under the altar in chapter 6? Chapter 6, verses 9, 10, and 11. These that are under the altar are those that were slain for their testimony, for the word of God and for their testimony. Now what are they doing? They're crying out to the Lord and saying, Lord, how long? How long before you're going to judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? When are you going to judge them? Well, these are no doubt part of the prayers that are going up in the incense. And so God is about to answer their prayers. They've been praying. The scripture says they were given white robes and told to wait a little while until the rest that were to be martyred had been slain. And so, and now their prayers are obviously part of these that are going up from the altar of incense. So the smoke of the back in verse 4, chapter 8. So the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer, that's the pan that I was talking about, and filled it with fire off the altar of incense. He just scoops up some coals and notice what he does when he scoops them up. The angel took the censer and filled it with fire off the altar and cast it down onto the earth. Cast it to the earth. And we heard voices, thunderings and lightnings and earthquakes. So we're about to get an introduction to the angels, 7 angels sounding their trumpets. So he's given the warning to the inhabitants of the earth. You better get ready, because judgment is coming swift and sure. And now we see the angels in verse 6 that had the 7 trumpets. They're getting ready to sound their trumpets. Now remember, trumpet could be, there's several types of trumpet. You heard the shofar?
That's before Christ comes back, though, right? Or is this?
This is after the rapture.
Okay.
And remember the tribulation is 7 years. We're halfway. We're starting the halfway point now, and moving toward the last.
Well, I just remember hearing
last
the
42 months. We're looking at the last 42 months of a 7-year period. That's also the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy that we're looking at. So in verse 6, the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Now make a note of this. The first four trumpets have to do with judgments against the earth and heaven. Judgment against the earth and heaven, the environment. So you could say environment. So the first 4. And the last 3 judgments against the inhabitants that are living on the earth at this time. Now, when the first trumpet sounds, first angel sounded, and there followed hail, fire mingled with blood, and were cast upon the earth, and a third part of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. So this trumpet, this judgment is against vegetation. A third part is burned up in the sounding of the first trumpet. Now we get some indication of this from, you may want to jot these references down and look at them a little later. Joel 2:30, Exodus 9:24, Ezekiel 38:22. They all prophesy of this particular event. Now, as we look at these four in particular, these four trumpets, you're going to be reminded of the plagues that came upon Egypt, if you remember. There was a plague of blood, there was a plague of lice, and so it's not unusual for God to pour out His wrath in this fashion. That was demonstrated during the Egyptian bondage, but it was limited. It didn't affect the land of Goshen where the Hebrew children lived. They didn't experience any of it, but it covered all of Egypt. So when God says a third part of the trees were burned up, God's capable of carrying that out to the degree and right to the line and to the letter. So a third part of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. So that's vegetation. Now the second trumpet starts in verse 8. The second angel sounded, as it were, a great mountain burning with fire. And this great mountain was thrust into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood. Remember the plague of blood? The Nile River was blood. All of their water containers, utensils, the blood, that turned to blood, the water in them. How many of you remember Tim LaHaye? And Hal Lindsey. These are the late great Planet Irby. Tim LaHaye's books on
Left Behind.
Left Behind series, yes. Tim LaHaye says that this great mountain is a meteorite. A meteorite that comes down and smites the sea. Of course, Hal Lindsey differs from him, and he says that it's a nuclear bomb. But that's individual interpretation. But I want you to know, the Scripture says a great mountain, and God's capable of taking a mountain and thrusting it into the sea, Ernie. God wants to do that, He can. And the mountain was burning with fire. And then, all of a sudden, as it was cast into the sea, a third part of the sea became blood. A third part of the sea became blood. So, what caused that? Could it be a natural response to the fire being cast into the sea? that it would become red in color. Does it literally mean blood? You've heard of red tide? Explain that, Linda, for me. Red
It's some kind of algae.
algae, yeah, that's
An
right.
algae bloom
Yeah.
under certain conditions.
Well, they've been unable to eat the seafood on the coast because of an algae that for a long time now, especially around Gulfport, Biloxi, the fishermen have been able to fish because of that. Jubilees when they come out on the oxygen is depleted, and they come out on the land, the fish do. And so, but God can handle that. And a third part, with the seed becoming blood, a third part of the fish, or the creatures of the sea that had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. That's the third judgment of the third. Now the third trumpet sounds, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star. Now, no doubt about that being a heavenly body, and that was fell as it were a lamp, and it fell into a third part of the rivers. So we have the salt water affected in the sea, and also now we have the fresh water, the rivers and the fountains, and all affected. So we see God's covering the entire thing in these particular judgments. And the name of that star that fell is called wormwood. Make yourself a note. Bitter as wormwood. Wormwood is a poisonous root that's so bitter. Bitter's gall. Wormwood. And it's capital. The star is called wormwood. The third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters. Why? Because they were bitter and poisonous by the injection. Now, let me give you a little interesting note here. I did not know this till I was researching. Remember the Chernobyl nuclear accident in Russia? Chernobyl in Russian means wormwood. So make yourself a note of that. That's a little interesting tidbit. Now the fourth angel, this affects the heavens. So far we've been dealing with the earth. But this fourth judgment, fourth trumpet, affects the heavenly bodies, the solar system. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, the third part of the stars, and a third part was darkened, and the day was shortened to a third part. Can you imagine trying to garden when you only get 3 hours of sunlight? And so you're going to see that as he talks about a third part, you say, well, 2/3 left. But just think how, when you cut off a third part, how it's going to affect the overall. And as we continue on, you see God's not going to leave anything out. The entire earth and the inhabitants of the earth will be affected by these judgments. God's judgments are not selective. They judge fairly and equally. And so the day is affected, the night's affected because of the moon. And so that's the fourth angel. Now, Matthew 24:28 talks wrap it up, and then I'll talk about it. I'll answer some questions for you. Verse 13, very important. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst. Now, we got one angel dealing with the golden altar and the incense. Now we've got 7 angels involved in judgment. We've got another angel flying through the midst of the heavens, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe. Woe is the strongest language in the Bible about judgment. Woe. Well, Jesus said to the Pharisees, scribes, Pharisees, woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites. Woe is strong language. So you've got 3 woes. How many trumpets are yet to sound? 3. So these are against the inhabitants. The first 4 against the earth and the heavens. This is against the inhabitants of the earth. These 3 woes. That's what he said. Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of other voices of the trumpets of the 3 angels